I'm self-taught. I came to photography relatively late in life. I was nearly 30 years old and living in New York. I had moved there to pursue completely different work. And I clearly remember one day going to St. Mark's bookstore and seeing my first William Eggleston book, and it just blew me away. I'm a child of the 1970s, and so I think there was a certain sense of familiarity and nostalgia that I had with the work initially. But of course, they were just simply amazing, beautiful images plucked from the real world. And I was doing nothing but thinking about photography and the next picture. So I went to Memphis and I met Eggleston and we became friends, and I introduced to him the idea of working with him. It was around the time that I was finishing my time in Memphis, and I went to a movie theater and I saw Terrence Malick's film Badlands. It's quite a story, but even more than that, it had all of these heavy themes wrapped up in it. Young love, confusion, panic, fear, escape, and I think most importantly the loss of innocence, and not only for this girl but also for America at the time. This happened at a very pivotal time in American history. A lot of big changes were taking place. It was the emergence of the teenager as a societal force, to the beginnings of rock and roll. So I began researching that story intensely and reading every book that I could get my hands on, and eventually took my first trip to Nebraska and followed that path 500 miles west and retraced it 500 miles east and photographed things of significance to this true crime story where possible. And I found things that I never imagined that I would find, including personal belongings and pieces of evidence that were touched by or had belonged to or were touched by these killers or their victims, and in some cases things that were never recovered by the detectives who originally worked the case. I found myself working very much like a detective, or a detective in reverse. It was just so captivating, and I was obsessed, and I wanted the viewer to share in that experience. I wanted the viewer to feel that way. I love the idea of the viewer being compelled to learn more and do their own research, or at least to walk away with questions, and to be compelled to think or rethink what they might already know. I guess you could say that the book was foremost in my mind. I was thinking back, to the archive and some of these materials, and just how thrilling and how visceral it was to not only encounter some of these things, but actually touch them. So one way of doing that is not only the book form, but actually activating the book form in a way, and incorporating some of these other materials, inserting these extra pieces of paper in the book that force the viewer to interact, to touch, to feel, to peel back the layers. Each of these inserted pieces of paper rests atop another image, and so the viewer is compelled to go through very much the same kind of experience that I went through, revealing these images. I think that both the book and the exhibition form, they're different, but they each have, they can each be dealt with or exploited in different ways. I can now say that photographs are the heart of my work, but it's no longer all that I do, and I don't necessarily define myself as a photographer. I say that photographs are the heart of my work, but that they're surrounded by, it could be documents, artifacts, objects, paintings, sculptures, and that's all been very exciting. The expansion of what is possible.